this is what we're going to talk about. And you kind of set the groundwork for what you want to do. Most people have a wrong idea of what improvisation is. Improvisation is spontaneous.
What's up, Worcester? This is Jackie from Women Strong Recovery and Wellness Coaching. And today on this conversation of Crossroad Conversations, I'm so excited to bring my own mother, Lisa Monteiro, and we're going to dive into some of our crossroads together, some of her crossroads. What does that look like? But I really brought her on because I think that if I'm going to bring you guys these conversations from other folks and what it is to have your own crossroad and what that looks like, it's only fair that you kind of understand, I think, a little bit more about me, my crossroad, and my mother's, and what that looks like. And as we dive a little deeper, just really listening and, relating to parts of our story that might resonate with you. So again, I'm going to bring my mother here, Lisa Monteiro, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, Jackie, for having me here. I'm excited.
And I think it's always a little different when you're doing it with family, right? We have obviously a lifetime of history and a lifetime of ups, downs, and all arounds that we've really overcome, and I think are still, navigating through. The biggest thing, and what I always tell people is that, my biggest pride is like when I say that I'm in recovery and I'm sober, I always end up with this and because I came in, also my mother is sober today. So let us know, what does your recovery look like today? How much time you have? What is that? How does that feel for you?
Well, my recovery looks really grand today. I'm so happy with what I have and my knowledge that I've gained. I work with women in recovery to build them and strengthen them and lift them, as my daughter did for me when I first came into recovery. It was really eye-opening to see her go into recovery along with seeing the growth. So when I got into recovery, I couldn't be like her, but I wanted to do something new and different, which I do today. And the growth is amazing. I work in an all-women's recovery, long-term residential care. And so I do groups there. And I try to implement a little bit about God and a little bit about the higher power. And I've been offered jobs as a counselor and stuff like that, but I like working with the women and lifting and teaching them about recovery and that they can do it. And within the family, because learning by you, being younger, how you brought me into recovery, that we can teach the older generation it's possible. And now I'm going on 9.5 years of recovery.
Clap, clap, clap.
Yes.
That's amazing. So 9.5 years, I think, when you're looking at someone's recovery and you're thinking 9.5 years compared to maybe your lifespan, it might not seem a lot. But I think when you're considering what you've been through and where you've come from and that triumph, that is huge. So what is 9.5 years for you feel like in this moment now?
Well, it's really pivotal for me because this year will make not only 9.5 years, it makes 10 years in September. And in July, I will be 60. So I have 2 great milestones to look forward to. Yeah. So in you know what, in my 59 years today, I can honestly say in the 50 years of getting high, getting drunk, running amok, this is the best years I've ever had in my life. And because I gained so much knowledge and wisdom, and like I've gotten baptized also last year, and I'm learning the word of God, and my whole family, our whole family, is doing so well without mind altering substance in order to be happy, dance, sing, So this whole duration of the 9.5 years is so pivotal. I love it.
Yeah, and I always say that too. Like when you talk about our family and like what that looks like, I'm like, we have Thanksgivings and there's no cops called. There's no fighting. There's no like any of that.
Putting somebody through a wall.
Yeah, we don't do that anymore. We're nice.
Yeah.
And so bring us back because you'll be 60 in July.
Yes.
You'll have 10 years. So that's, a full decade of recovery and coming into this new life. What was that crossroad for you that, at 50 years old, you made the decision? And what did that look like?
Well, I remember years prior when I would go out with the girls and everything, I would always see one person, woman, elderly, sitting at the end of the bar. And like by the end of the night, they had to carry her out and put her in a cab to go home. And I said, I would never be that woman. So as, of course, time went on, still not having the knowledge that you could still have a good time without a drink, drug, or anything. I came upon a part of my life when I ended up injuring myself, losing my job, getting on medication from the doctors that prescribed it, heavy medications that I never took. Realized thereafter that I was an addict. And then I turned to street drugs. And that was 8 years of my life. And so I learned also that you were an alcoholic and I'm doing my drugs and we're sharing sometimes together perks and everything else. I would even go in my pajamas. You would not find me in my pajamas today, right? Going to the CVS drive-thru for my perks at like 5 o'clock in the morning because it was a 24-hour. And so when you went into recovery, I would watch you come see me. Every now and then you would come. You wouldn't stay long, but you were growing. You were looking healthy. Your skin was shining. You dressed so well. And I was like, I miss that. I miss that part of me. I want that back. I want to work again. I want to dress again. I want to feel whole. And I want to travel. I want memories of, a snapshot. And I'm seeing you in pictures and celebrating. And I'm like, I want what she got. That's what brought me into recovery. And then, I failed the first time. I went to WotC also, remember? So when I came back home, what did I do? I went back to the same old friends, same old life. And I lied. Right? I told people in recovery, oh, I have a sponsor, I have a whole, clinician of people, like I had everything. And those are the only words I knew because I heard it from you and other people like on Facebook or whatever I was watching or hearing or in the groups. And I have the tools. I didn't know anything. And so when I came out the first time, I relapsed because I kept hanging with the same people. And they're like, oh, I know you just got out of recovery, but guess what? I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to offer you any. How does that work, right? So it came to a point where when that episode happened, I chased it so hard, wanting the same results, not finding it, till my mom, Nana, found me overdosed. And I got Narcan, and that was my first real remembrance of a spiritual awakening when I opened my eyes and I seen your grandmother and your Aunt Doreen sitting there looking at me, waiting to see if I would open my eyes. I got a spiritual encountering. God spoke to me right then and there and said, don't turn away, Lisa, look at them. I seen the disgust in their eyes, the hurt, the pain, the anger, the love, the fear. And the first time I didn't feel selfish about me and my worries and my feelings. I seen theirs. And it was so profound that it hit my heart and it hit my whole soul like, you're selfish. You need to change. And then I got picked up from my drug dealer boyfriend.
Got one of those.
Yes, that I had left a boyfriend for him, because he, was benefiting me. He wasn't only good looking, but he was my drug dealer. So I was getting the best of both worlds, so I thought. He was so angry picking me up, and I asked him for help, and he said absolutely not. He wouldn't help me, and he told me I had to leave when I wanted the help and I needed that.
Yeah.
But your Aunt Tracy, my best friend, my sister, came through, because remember, you and Nana sectioned me, and I failed that first time. So she went and she said, how do we go about this, Lisa? I said, the same way my mom and Jackie did. You're going to section me again. Yeah. So I had to go through the whole routine of being shackled and in court and in the whole ride. At least I remember the second ride. But I did go, and I told him I would leave. I had a bag packed. She came, she picked me up on the 26th of September, and we went. And I ended up at WotC again. Ironically enough, I didn't only end up at WotC. I ended up in the same bedroom with the same clinician in the same pod. It was like God paused that whole moment for me, and I had just turned 50. My promise came true. When I turned 50, I was going to be sober. And like God worked it. And I never knew about how God works and tells you be still. It's, I'm working on your story, Lisa. You don't know how to do this story. I do, because I'm more powerful than you and more resilient than you. And I'm going to help you through this and coach you through this. And he did. And I was like in awe. And I battled though. When I came out, they put me in Taunton. And of course, I had no patience, no tolerance. I had that idea of, it was all about me, and I wanted to smoke. I got caught. I was in an empty room, right? And RS, the residential specialist, she had looked through the window in that empty room, and as I went to light the cigarette, and there she got me. And it's automatic discharge. So I was discharged. My dad came and got me. And from there, I ended up at Faith House. No patience, no tolerance there again. I unfortunately put hands on. I was discharged. Ended up at CHL. I ended up in the TSS on the 4th floor. And I remember laying there, and God was like, Lisa, what am I going to do with you? Like, come on. And I'm lying still, you know what I mean? And I'm still lying, and I'm still manipulating, trying to manipulate the system, forgetting and not knowing how many people already been there, done that. Yeah. Even at 50, I was that naive and ignorant and immature, right? Thinking that everything I was entitled to. So I ended up at CHL and TSS, and I had that idea of entitlement. I had an excellent counselor. His name is Xavier, and he kept making me write patience and tolerance and sentences and paragraphs, and and I was getting mad. And then like about 3 weeks go by, and I'm like, don't have me do it again. And he's like, yeah, you're doing it again. So all of a sudden, I did all the sentences. I did all the homework they offered you and everything. Woke up to their bells in the morning. I went to him and I started laughing. I sat there. I said, you're teaching me patience and tolerance. He's like, wow, you got it after 3 weeks. And I did. And then I ended up, my insurance ran out. So I ended up at a TSS, the holding. There again, blessed. And now I work for her, Angel, right? She was my caseworker, and she read my notes, and she told me, Lisa, you don't belong with people. So wow. So I ended up going, remember, in the Albion?
Mm-hmm.
It was studio apartments, remember? And right near a liquor store. And my trigger was seeing the nip bottles on the ground because, I did crack and, everything. So when I first started, that was my thing. I got big time. I thought at the end, with stems, but whatever, it's whatever. I ended up getting into this apartment and I had that pink cloud moment, right? God was still working on me. And I looked up at the city lights at night out my window and I was all the way up on the third floor. And it was just so beautiful. I was in awe. And I remember you trying to get me in different like AA meetings and stuff like that. And I went and I started going and getting up early in the morning at 5, 6 in the morning, getting ready, getting my room cleaned, taking a nice shower, getting dressed, feeling good about myself, and going to EDM, Everyday Miracles. That was my biggest achievement that I did. Between Angel putting me by myself, me being responsible enough to get up. This is the thing a lot of people don't understand. You got to be independent. You got to, get up. Because if you lay down, I was afraid to go back into that isolation that I was in when I was using.
Yeah.
So that was my biggest fear, because if I had gone into isolation, I lived around an area that was so greatly dear, like it's like a donation, right? Like, here's some crack, here's some perks, here's a liquor store.
It's like the epicenter of use. Like if you want to, in that moment, it's just going down the stairs and
out my door,
out your door, and being able to have full access to whatever you want.
And I remember your fear and your anger at that time. You're setting my mother up for failure. Yeah. Like, she's come this long. Yeah. Now you're setting her up for failure, because I stayed, 3 months in CHL. Yeah. And that was the 3 months I think I needed. And I could lay there in bed every night with the mice and everything. And I'm afraid of mice. But I could sit there and say, thank you, Lord, for giving me this bed, this roof, this food. Yeah. Right? It may not have been everything I wanted, but I was blessed too with you and Nana and Auntie Tracy and Auntie Doreen and everybody that contributed to me, right? I was growing. I was getting bigger. My clothes were growing out. I never had to worry about toiletries, clothes, anything. I was so blessed. I want to
just go back a little bit to the beginning of, I know you explained that you relapsed, right? So you went into WOTC one time, you relapsed, you go back into WOTC. And do you think that was a crossroad for you in that moment, where there was such a difference in that experience and the experience of overdosing, and, even being able to see, because I clearly remember, the first time, we had a family meeting at WOTC, and this denial, which I was only 18 months sober. So that was a big responsibility on me too, to try to like usher your own mother into what you have now found in recovery, and, understanding like what that looked like and wanting her to grasp that, right? Wanting you to have that. And I remember being in the room with the counselor and you, and like, oh no, like I think you had a name of like a sponsor, and like you were like, I know where I'm gonna go, and they have a van that'll pick you up, and and this, and just being able to see that like denial, and just like you see like, oh, it's going down, like she doesn't get it yet, which, and it now knowing is like, you can't give someone your recovery. No, you can't. So what was that difference between the first time and the second time, that crossroad of like, okay, this is my second time. You realize, okay, I'm in the same room, I'm in the same bed, I have the same counselor, but then you get picked up. And I feel like, when you're saying that, is like, you're here, and then it's like this deflating maybe like in that moment between the first time going through and then the second time, and that difference?
Well, I'll tell you, the first time it was total manipulation. Total manipulation, not knowing or wanting to change the lifestyle. Really, being afraid to change the lifestyle because I lived 8 years of this different lifestyle of being an addict. And knowing too that those so-called friends aren't really your friends. You use one another, you manipulate one another, and you cling to one another because if one don't have, the other has. You know what I mean? It's the hustle and bustle. And the fear of not being normal without a substance.
Yeah.
But when I ended up waking up in the ER and seeing my mom and your aunt, you know, like I said, that was the God moment, right? And then when I ended up in Watsy again, well, actually, at the courthouse, because it was the same idea, but not as strong, not as profound, because I already knew what was going to happen. It was like, oh my God, I went through this again. So it was like a deja vu. So when I got into Watsy, it was definitely a deja vu. But then God was like, it's me, and you're doing this. And here we go. We paused life for you. You're doing this, and pushed me in and let me see that he was in control, right? Even though I wasn't in the Bible, I wasn't biblical, I didn't know any of these things, but I felt him. And he's always been with me since I was born. You know, I went through a difficult birth and everything, and I've always felt God. It's always been with me throughout my whole life, even in my deaths, you know. So with that second turn at Watsy was my life, do or die there. It was like, you go in and you do what you can do. Even though I failed along the way until I got to CHL, it took me a few, still, like, you're thinking like, do I go back? What do I do? And you know what? I was so angry with my ex, too, for not wanting to help me after I thought all those years being so in love, right? You think somebody's going to really help you. But you notice sometimes you have to take people out of that equation in order to grow and to really live for you. Because if I went back, say he took me back, guess what? I might have not made it through. I might not be sitting here talking to you today.
Yeah.
And following a path that my daughter led me to, knowing that was possible. So Watsy opened my eyes. That was my beginning. But CHL taught me. And they knew what was right for me. I guess watching so many other people, working with so many other people, being themselves addicts and wanting to give back, they gave me so much. And then being at EDM, I held on to people's skirt tails. I held on to your skirt tail. I kept going until I found what I loved, what made me grow. You know, even though I know you kind of fought me along the way saying, Mom, you gotta do this. And I was like, no, I like AANA, all recovery.
Yeah. I think that's funny. And I always tell that story because that helped me in my recovery. So even though I came before you in this sense of like finding my own, finding AA and finding recovery, and because I know for me, I didn't know about AA, NA, like I didn't know about TSS, CHL, like different detox, all of that. So coming in and I'm thinking like, there was two things that stood out. First, my first sponsor, when, I didn't think you would make it, right? Like I was like, oh, she's going to be 50 years old. I know my mother, there's no hope. She's stuck in her ways. I know that. So I put you on the back burner, right? Like I was like, I think that there's some hope for me. There's a little bit of glimpse. I can see it. I'm kind of getting out of, this fog. And so there's a little bit of hope for me. But I had already disregarded you, right? Like I had already put you on the back burner, like, I know my mother. Like we've been through some shit, right? Like, and my sponsor said, you don't know what God has for her. And it's not up to you to decide if your mother is going to make it or not. So that was one pivotal thing. And then when you came in, And, you know, of course I'm like, yeah, no, you need to do it this way.
Yeah.
This is how you, because that's what I did. That's all like I'm like, no, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it this way.
The right way.
The right way, right? Because I had my own spiritual experience that was so profound that like, and I was angry because I was like, nobody told me about this. Why? You know, like why? It's like a hidden secret, you know, like nobody knows. And that's just it. Nobody around us knew. Like, and so then the second thing was you teach, you know, having that, like, I'm, you know, AA this, AA that, I'll do whatever A is, you know, in my face, like that will help me to learn more about me. That'll help me, you know, be involved. That'll help me allow me to like change in a way that fits and feels right for me. And so that gave me a lot of permission in my own recovery and the way that I, you know, work a program and have been able to open up spaces for others.
And you know, I think we bounce off each other, not even realizing it sometimes, because like when I told you that, I think that built my character and my position that I do now as a recovery specialist, right? Yeah. So I will tell women when I have groups, I'm like, do you. You'll start off following because that's what you have to do to, you know what I mean? They might like just teaching better. They might like going to school, but you can do and be whoever you are and want to be.
Yeah.
And I learned that from you because your growth, right? And then my growth. So now I can feed it to other people, right? Because it's powerful to know that you don't have to be a follower, because when we follow, that's what leads us into the temptation. Because our mental health is at times very weak, especially when you don't have a higher power. And that's what leads us into the whole mind-altering substance, right? We're trying to control that mental. And once we can let go of the substance, we can work on our mental, and having people say it's okay to be different. It's okay to follow that path.
And what did everyday miracles look like for you? What were you doing in that space that made you feel empowered? Because when you're talking, I hear empowerment. I feel like you were really able to usher in your own ability to like see what is Lisa like? Well, what do you want?
Well, to give you a little idea, I used to be a head assistant in the dental field, and then I turned over to oral surgery assistant. And so that was very powerful for me to do that kind of job and career. I loved it. I ate off of it. I fed off of it. Oh my God. I couldn't wait to get up every morning and do my job. And I lost it because that's how I ended up an addict, because I had a severe back injury where I had to have surgery, remember? And that's when I started with the narcotics. And I stopped drinking because I was on those narcotics. And I said, oh, we can't mix both, so we'll do one. And I didn't know. And this is why I tell a lot of people, watch what you take from the doctor and ask, because I didn't know it was a derivative of heroin, right? And it's so addictive. So that was kind of my journey right there. And so when I got into recovery, I was like, what do I do? Where do I go from here? How will I ever work? Remember when I told you I was going to stay on food stamps and Social Security for the rest of my life? I was fine. You said, Mom, really grow up. But so I went to Everyday Miracles and I learned how to chair a meeting, right? So you sit at the meeting and you pick a topic, and I open it up, and then we all go around the table and discuss. People can raise their hand, you can talk or not talk, right? And so I'll say, oh, like, how do you feel? Do you feel like God is your higher power? How did he bring you here today? That's the subject. Yeah. And then we discuss it. So that was a little bit. And then from there, after chairing meetings, I was doing commitments, right? I started, like finding the people that were in recovery longer. And they would go, Lisa, you want to go do a commitment? I think you're ready. I think you're ready to go tell your story. I said, my story? Like my story? What's my story? And it's like what we're talking about now, right? So I was going to like different recovery places, and residentials and so forth. And like some of them were all women recovery. Some of them were even co-ed recoveries. And so I got to tell my story. And then all of a sudden you came along and asked me if I wanted to do a commitment. And we did a mother-daughter, right? And then we did the TV show also with mother-daughter and the newspaper. And so that's when my adrenaline started pumping. I'm like, I can do this recovery thing. I'm loving it. And, it's powerful and it makes you feel whole again. It makes you feel grown and whole. Because when I started drinking, I was real young. I was a kid. I wasn't even a teenager. Started smoking at 9. And when I started really getting heavy in drugs, I was 42. And so all I knew was a substance. And so I had to grow from probably, I'll say 14 years old to 50 in this 9.5 years. Yeah. Which I think I'm doing a pretty good job at. I think I'm a little,
Yeah, we all do.
Quirks. Yeah. But, I still need to grow. I still feel young. You know what I mean? Even almost at 60. Yeah. I still have that youth in me. But Everyday Miracles was my stepping stone. I ended up becoming a peer leader. So that means that I am like the head. I ended up talking and being one of the guest speakers to talk about Everyday Miracles. What's that the hall name on
Mechanic Hall?
Mechanic Hall. Yeah, I was a guest speaker there for Everyday Miracles. I got a stipend for 3 months, which they pay you. And so I was like, I can work. And I started to learn, this is my love and this is my niche. God gave me a niche, right? That you don't only have to be a dental assistant or oral surgeon assistant. You go talk to people. You get them recovered. And I always say, if it's 10 people in a room and I'm talking to them and I'm giving them a coin or something, I like to give them things just to represent I was here and this is where I learned that, right? And when they look back on my years that I have now and say, she gave me this when I first started. It's so empowering. I had that happen to me at Everyday Miracles. There was a worker there, and she gave me a coin and said that on the coin it says, you're a miracle. And it was a butterfly on it. I still have it, right? And I only had 3-4 months recovery. And she gave me that coin. And that's my most sacred coin ever. Yeah. And so I like to give them a little something. If it's a crystal bottle crystals, or a mustard seed, right? So how empowering the mustard seed is, right? Yeah. How it grows such a beautiful tree and the biggest. So I try to implement that. And this is all I learned from Everyday Miracles. So I bring that in my place of employment now. Yeah.
So in Everyday Miracles, that empowerment to be to open your eyes and to shift that process for you of maybe I can do more. Maybe I'm not just gonna, kind of just sit in this okay, I don't use drugs anymore. I don't use, I'm focusing on mental health. I know that, you've come up with your own mental health battles and you've been able to overcome them with persistence and consistency in your journey of mental health. What did that look like for you when you came in for the first time and, being maybe diagnosed and having, a psychiatrist, having all of these things, because we talk about recovery, substance use, but at the underlying, for a lot of us, mental health is the biggest thing. And if we're not focused on this particular thing, it just leads you back and forth with playing that game. So I talk a little bit about that journey for you and being able to really focus on that so that you can continue in your recovery journey also.
Well, what I learned, and that was from you, is self-care. first and foremost when you're in recovery, the self-care. And that means a lot of people don't understand that when you say that. That means going to the doctors, going to the dentist, going to the psychiatrist and counselor, working out your mental health, and that a substance is not needed. And the substance that are needed for your mental health is going to cure you, and it's not going to make you run crazy, right? If you have the right psychiatrist to analyze you and you're honest. You have to be honest with them. You have to be upfront with them to give you the right medication to deal with that mental health, because my mental health was just like off the wall. You couldn't even talk to me. I couldn't even sit here for a few minutes and have a conversation.
Yeah.
But she found the right combination for me and my mental health. I had like Sybil going through my head all night and all day.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be patient. I couldn't be still. I couldn't listen. When she found the right combination for me, I remember at one point not having all that like pumped up energy, right? And I wanted to stop. But I said, if I stop, this is what brought you here. Right? Because we never got taught how to take care of that mental health to stop you from going and chasing something to slow you down. And I always recommend to people, if they put you on something, you'll know what's good for you and you'll know what's bad for you if you look into yourself enough. Yeah. And you seek the right appropriate help and discuss with your doctor what's working for you and what's not. I was fortunate. The psychiatrist I seen got it right off the bat. So I know when I need to pick up a med in milligrams or when I need to down it in milligrams. I still stay on it till today. There are a couple I have gotten off of. So now I only take 2 mental health medications, which is phenomenal, right? Because I was on a box full of medicine and drugs. And so now I'm on 2 medications that I need for my mental health. I refuse to stop them because I don't know if it'll reverse. And I don't want to take that chance. And I don't think anybody should take that chance with their mental health. Because once I knew I could get off drugs and didn't need it, and I fit my mental health, I knew I never want to go back to drugs again. If I ever go back to that kind of lifestyle again, I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back. I'm going full force. Because it's going to take a lot of embarrassment and a lot of will for me to go to anybody. And I don't have that in me no more. And what brought me into recovery too also is when I overdosed, I could see my grave saying, oh, Lisa Monteiro overdosed in 2016 on my tombstone. How nice is that for your mom, daughter, and your sisters, and your family, period. And I said, you know what? I won't know. I'm dead. Yeah. But they're going to know, and they're going to feel it, and they're going to live with that. And how selfish would that be for me? That's what also brought me in recovery, too. Watching you be in recovery and making a better way for us. And I had to do that, too, and follow along and walk your path to make you proud of me being your mom, because I've made a lot of mistakes in my past. And that's another thing with people's mental health. You got to learn to find God, if that's who you choose to be your higher power, and forgive yourself as He forgives us. And walk through life. I think that the 12 steps is a really important message also in your new recovery, because it teaches you how to open up, how to accept yourself, and how to make apologies, amends to other people that you have hurt and injured in your walk of life when you were, using and abusing yourself and them. And when we grow, that's a part of our growth. I really believe.
Yeah. So you take us on this journey, right? You're in Everyday Miracles. You're doing, you're finding your own path, your own walk. How long after that does it take you to really find more worth in in meaning into your recovery and your own journey? Because I know your personal story because you're my mother, but how long after does you start to look at the picture and be like, oh, I can do more. There's more for me?
Well, all those mores, I learned from you. I did. I actually learned from you because you wouldn't let me sit still. You wouldn't allow me when I said the food stamps and Social Security was enough. You was like, no, you need a get well job. Yeah, it's okay. You were a peer leader. You got a stipend. Now it's time for you to get a real job, to do something, get out the house. Besides watching the grandchildren and stuff like that, I felt so blessed that I was able to, be with my grandchildren in life and be trusted, and no one worry about them, being in my care. And so that was part of my growth. And also, when I finally listened to you and got a well job, then I started learning how much I love doing this job, right? And giving back. The commitments taught me how to give back. People, when you say give back, they think financially. No, giving back is through the heart, through what you've learned, what you've been taught, what you can give. And I let them know that they're really helping me every time I speak.
Yeah.
Because when I speak to them and tell my story, they keep me strong from not wanting to sit in their seat again. And when I was in CHL and I heard commitments and everything, there was a 17-year-old, remember Jeremy?
I know.
When I seen him, oh my God, he's the one that said, I can soar. He's 17, I'm 50. I can do this thing. Until today, I love that kid with all my heart. He brought me into the doors of recovery to say it's possible. If a 17-year-old could do it, absolutely. I was grown enough to do it, and I was so blessed that you were so young still to do it. So it's more years of your life of sobriety and the mental clarity that you was blessed with. And my 9.5 years, I still feel blessed. I still feel blessed. And I still think I got another good 20 more years in me.
Right.
So I still got all that. And I just keep it real. I keep it, in my heart real. I keep in the front of my mind what it was like that last time when I overdosed. I tell people, you will keep your sobriety if you remember the last yuck moment. I call it your yuck moment, right? Because I felt so sick, was not getting the high I was looking for. And then I was an embarrassment to everybody. That was such a yuck moment. And I was pained to everybody. And so it took me a while too to gain trust back in the family. Remember, almost a year. People didn't want to see me. They didn't want to celebrate me. No. And I tell people, you got to prove yourself. You got to walk that walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to do this journey sometimes on your own because we don't realize how many people are staying awake at night while we're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and enjoying ourselves and partying like a rock star while they're up crying and worrying, are you dead, alive, beat? So this journey has been amazing for me, and I'm looking so forward to see what else life has to offer me.
Yeah. We've obviously a lifetime shared memories. But I think when I'm thinking of another crossroad and a pivotal moment for us was, and I talked about this in the first episode a little bit, was, I had, been going through some things and had, really come to a rock bottom in sobriety, and finding, God. And I say I had this acquaintance, with God, but not an actual relationship. And I remember calling you. I didn't tell anyone that, I went to church, and calling you and being able to share in that, and you being like,
oh my God.
Oh, what do you mean? And so tell us a little bit about that, because I think
funny.
that has been for us a shared crossroad for us as we journey, and also separate, because again, just like with our recovery, our walk with God and Jesus Christ is different.
Weird.
It's different.
Because
it's not the same.
No, it's
right?
not the same,
But it is.
but it is.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Every time something is thought or denied or whatever, here I come. Here I come. I keep, like
Yeah.
right.
So what did that
at
look
you.
like for you?
So I was living in like a sober house, right, with 2 other women, and so I ended up finally getting my housing certificate. And I was so like, this is my 8th year now in recovery I'm going on. And I'm sitting at the end of the bed there. And I'm like, God, I'm going on 8 years of recovery. What do I do now? Because I got my license back, had a breathalyzer, all that other stuff, right? And had my license gone for like 10, 11 years. And I was so afraid to get it back because financially, but I did save $10,000 in a year to get a car, the breathalyzer, everything. I remember how proud you were of me. I was proud too. So I said, I got the grandmother child ring. In 1 year, I got a real leather purse and a real leather wallet matching. Another year, so I treat myself every year. So this 8th year, I was sitting there and I said, what do I do now? And I heard God's voice say, now you're going to learn me as I learned you. And I was like, wow. And I'm looking around the room, did I really hear that? And I'm like, yeah. And then all of a sudden, a few days later, you're like, Mom, I'm going to church. And I was like, oh my God, God told me to go to church to learn them. Right? And that's how we started our journey learning, starting our baby steps, learning the Bible, right?
Yeah.
In the last year and a half.
It's been almost 2 years.
Yeah, year and a half.
Yeah. And what has been the most, I think, pivotal thing for you or instrumental thing?
My baptism. My baptism was amazing. To become one with Jesus. And she kept telling me everywhere we went, right? Ma, get baptized, get baptized. And at the journey, you wanted me to get baptized. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not getting baptized now. And when I felt it, right? When I felt the church that I felt in my heart that God brought me to, that's when I knew it was right. And it was a blessing. And I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I know to make him number 1 in the morning. I know to make him number 1 in the afternoon. I know to make him number 1 at night. And I know that he has blessed me so much. I mean, I do not need for anything. And he's brought people around me that help me and reassure me that things are going to be all right. And if one don't have, the other has. It just works in sync, never an argument. We get a little uppity sometimes, but that's normal. We live normal lives, what we think society calls normal. There's no fighting, no arguing. We sit, we talk like grown-ups and women and men and women. It's so much better because we can discuss, like I tell my clients, yelling, swearing words don't hear, where we used to think it did, and it doesn't hear, right? So we got to sit here like we are right now, right? And hear those words, and God brings that all to us with the peace and serenity that we feel each and every day, with the Holy Spirit. I got that. Yeah. I got the Holy Spirit.
And everyone, you're coming out of your like closet per se. Like you I think, had a time in your recovery where a little isolation, like getting your things back together, like, doing your job, and you were more reserved. And I think you've come into this space of like reemergence. And
what was really difficult in my journey, and I tell people, be very kind to yourself. Be very gentle to yourself, because a lot of women don't realize our hormones and everything else go through a big change, right? I gained so much weight. Remember, I was 180 pounds. I went through surgery, all kind of diets. And so this last year, my journey was being back to Lisa. The old Lisa physically, the way I
Renewed.
look. Renewed, yes.
Renewed Lisa.
I lost all that weight. I lost 80 pounds in the last year.
Yeah.
And I feel normal. I feel like me because I was never big, ever in my life.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what that looked like. There was days I was trying to feel confident and like acceptant, and I still couldn't. And I tried to dress the best I could. I still didn't feel like me.
Yeah.
And when I finally found a remedy that worked for me, and the CrossFit and everything. Now I see in Crunch Fitness, I'm gonna go. So, on this journey of the weight gain and everything, that messes with your mental too. And I think, we learn what will crush us and bring us backwards.
Yeah.
If we can clearly know things can crush us and we can keep building and be acceptant, things will work out with patience and being still and let God do his work.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to do. And today I feel like normal Lisa. And with my mental health on top of it, and the family and the friends and the community, I can ask for more. And I know God's going to give me more because I'm doing this walk with you, and you show me always new ways, and I love that because it helps me grow too. And then I try to show other people other ways, right, of my recovery, and that helps them grow too. So we're doing a circle, right?
Yeah. I think that's the beautiful thing, right? Like that's why we're having these conversations, right? Because it's about community, it's about change, it's about, what does it look like when we meet a crossroad and we make different decisions. And you met those crossroads, you made different decisions. You've had people usher you in and like carry you, and you're doing the same for other people. And I think that that's just so beautiful that we can share in this together. And I know that, if you're out there and you're struggling and you think that, oh my God, maybe it's for me, but not for my mother or my family, this is proof that, you can never discount someone out, right? And so you've had many crossroads. We just touched upon a decade of them.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see the next crossroad for you. I think that it'll be even more beautiful. I think there's so much more. And we always say you're on your last life, so you got to make it, really count.
Yeah.
Because you've had so many, but what a blessing. And we all get to enjoy. Your grandkids love you so much.
Yeah.
And, you're showing up for your sister, you're showing up for your nieces and your mother and all of these people. So, I'm just so grateful to be able to have this conversation with you, to be able to be in this space with you and really, talk about what that looks like for us. And there'll be more. So thank you.
I love you.
I love you too. Well, thank you, everyone. This is Crossroad Conversations, and catch us on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.